So good morning. I have two different presentations. This is a Train the Trainers course. So the idea is to give you an overview on citizen science, starting from the basics. And so some definitions, some interpretations of citizen science, what is citizen sciences and what not, because in the last years, the terms is more and more used, and in some cases is not used properly. So the idea is just to define what is going around citizen science, how citizen science is growing in different countries in Europe and abroad. And at the end, there will be a quite simple quiz just to check if everything is clear for you. And of course, I'm open for questions and whatever you would like to ask. The second presentation will be more about examples. I will give you some examples of projects of citizen science, especially from the biodiversity field. I'm coming from this field, but also on other different fields of application of citizen science. So let's start to explore this new word for someone. So I don't know why. Okay. So if we would like to start since the beginning, we should look at the evolution of science. This is a quite simple scheme wrote by Mukia Clay in 2016 to explain how citizen science came up and the relationship even between open science and citizen science. If we look at science, we know that now it's very present in our everyday life, but it's in the process of evolution of human being. It's quite a recent discovery. So we speak early science about 2-3 centuries ago. So it's quite maybe few more. So when science started formally, most of the people was illiterate. So there was a huge difference between few people that were able to study, to know more about nature and different processes, and the global population all over the world, especially in the western part of Europe. We are speaking about this. So in the first stage of early science, there was the development of methods, foundation of the first scientific societies, universities. Some universities, of course, are older than this, but at this point, science started to have a precise definition. Then we move to the late 19th century, early 20th century, where science is growing, but it's only for specialists. So there is a period where the famous ivory towers are built up. So researchers, professors are quite distant from the general people, the public, and there is a creation of science like something only for specialists, and is relegated to universities and research institutions. But at the same time, in the population, the basic knowledge, the basic education is much better. So at least to high school, at least we are speaking about Europe in particular, and America. And then we jump to the early 2000s, when there is the start of open science. So the opening to methods, software, database, publications, and so on. So the opportunities formally for everyone to access information, to access software, and so on. At this point, the education in the general public is much higher. So most of the people are at least high school education. many of them also are university education. So we are in a moment where there is the availability of many resources and activities, softwares, and so on, and databases, and there is the knowledge base in the public ready to start with an active participation in science. So this process, of course, is something not so strictly defined, but the process itself follows this line. So we arrive to our days where it's almost everywhere in Europe, at least in USA, in Australia, in other, especially Anglo-Saxon countries, citizen science is very common. So we can speak about citizen science as an emerging area of research and practice with evolving standards. It's something that applies to many fields of research and many fields of science. So it's very difficult to arrive to a specific definition of citizen science because it bears the complexity of society and the complexity of science and the interaction between the two. So the name citizen science is used for a wide range of different activities. So in the last years, we developed also several papers trying to define it and to describe what is going on and how citizen science is evolving. And in many contexts, different stakeholders are developing methodologies that are aimed to gather the participation of the public and aim at retaining them over time. And so the techniques used, the approaches are quite different. Within this landscape, I will talk later about the EXA, the European Citizen Science Association, starting from 2014, defined the 10 principles of citizen science. So there was, at that time, the need to define what citizen science is, how it works, and what are the characteristics that a project should have to be considered within the citizen science umbrella. Then later on, the same association went further and produced another document, which is EXA characteristics of citizen science, which is more descriptive and try to address this need to define the different application and interpretation. So if we look now about the citizen science archipelago, there are many different approaches, and depending on the type of citizen science you are involved in, you may see citizen science like people contributing of observation and efforts to conducing science. So in this case, the view is more that of a research tool. It's one of the available research tools, quite recent, and can be used by researchers to carry out studies. But for others, it can be seen like a democratization of science. So in this case, is a huge opportunity for the people to take part and to conduct and govern science. So be an active part of it. So of course, can be both of it. But for some projects, in some contexts, these are aspects of participation and democratization is more important. And then, just to summarize the most important approaches, it can be seen like a civic education. So it's a way of expanding the public understanding of science. So you can look at it more on the education part, more on the social part and in humanities, and then Alessia will speak later about this, or just as a tool useful for science. This just to summarize the three most important ones. So there is no single definition that can encompass the broad range of activities of citizen science. We'll try to go through some examples later and some definition now. So the rise of citizen science. The first time the word was used was by Irwin. Irwin is a sociologist that wrote a book in that year, 1995, and for the first time, the citizen science was the title of the book. It was the first time citizen science was defined and the term was used. And then later on was used on a broader context. So for Alan Irwin, the citizen science is more something related to the knowledge that exists among people and that are traditionally seen from researcher side like ignorant people, but they have some knowledge that can be useful and important to take into consideration. And so it's important to look at the knowledge and expertise that already exists within society. And so let the society play a role in this sense. On the opposite side, both are completing the definition of citizen science in the two different ends of it, is Rick Bonney, which is an ornithologist, retired a couple of years ago, that worked on in Ithaca, New York, at the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. And for him, citizen science is a research technique. So it's a way to enlist people and to produce information and collect data and produce results, scientific results, putting together the knowledge of researchers and those of people that are enlisted to collect data, in this case on birds mainly. These are more or less the two views, the two main views. Then in 2014, the term citizen science were more and more common. So also the Oxford English Dictionary created a definition for it. It didn't exist before. So the definition they created is this one. Citizen science is the scientific work undertaken by members of the general public, often in collaboration with or under the direction of professional scientists and scientific institutions. So there should be the two sides, the researcher side and the population and participation side. Both have to collaborate, and the final aim is to create new knowledge, which is the real aim of any kind of science. So it's just a way to put together the two resources, the two approaches, and trying to work together. So it needs to have the collaboration of both sides. It's not something top-down, or shouldn't be top-down. So what is the value of citizen science? Taking into consideration what I saw before, this is the first value is scientific. So of course we are speaking about science. Data are collected to produce new knowledge, to publish it, and to create, papers, reports, and so on. So there is no doubt that citizen science has a scientific value. At the same time, it's very important to note that citizen science has a huge societal value because by definition, it is inclusive. Anyone formally can take part to a citizen science project. So there is no filter in terms of gender, of age, ethnicity, and so on. So there are a huge range, a huge variety of different projects that allow virtually anyone to take part in at least one or more citizen science projects. So the societal value is very important because it creates the opportunity for people, for anyone, to take part to science and to play a role. Of course, a third value is the educational one, because it's clear that if you are part of a citizen science project, you are learning something. In some cases, you have to learn before starting the project. In most cases, you learn during the project. And of course, there is also the opportunity for it, at least for young people, to grow within the project, to learn more, and at the end, maybe to choose STEM careers, or in a case just to produce more and more information as a professional way. So it's a way to educate people and to have a society that is more engaged with science, with data, and with collaboration. Then the fourth one, last but not least, is the policy-making value, because citizen science, much more than formal science, from my point of view, has a huge policy-making value. Policy-making is when data collected are collected by the public, and at the end they are collated and used to define some activities, some policy activities that positively goes back to the people that gather the data. Later on, in the second part, in my second presentation, I will give you an example on plastic about this, which is, from my point of view, very, very relevant. So policymaking is important, because people, this could be a part of motivation, can take part, because at the end, there is a feedback, and something that I collected, I have to collect, can be used for the general public and for humanity. So this is very, very important. So in some countries, especially USA and Northern Europe, citizen science is something that is quite common, started from at least many decades ago. And Boni itself wrote in 2009 a paper that already tried to provide definitions and describe citizen science. So it's a science of citizen science. If you look at this quite simple table, you will surely identify in the first column a list of activities. And if you look at them, from the top and down to the bottom, you see that this is a list, but is also a cycle, and is the cycle of science. So how science works. We start with defining a question, an issue that we want to investigate. We gather information about the topic and develop some explanations, and so some hypotheses. And on this basis, we design data collection methods, collect samples, analyze samples. We analyze data, interpret data, and try to conclude something from the data interpreted and elaborated. And then we disseminate conclusions through publications, reports, and so on. And then at the end, we discuss those results and trying to inquire further. So this list, this cycle, is shared by any kind of science. It could be chemistry, physics, humanities, and so on, but this is the process that the science follows to produce knowledge. So within this cycle, what are the main types of citizen science? If we start with the more simple one, we can Boni define citizen science, the simplest way to do citizen science, to take part to the science cycle, is the contributory one. In the contributory science, people just help researchers in collect samples and try to help them also in performing some simple analysis, so analyze samples. This is the most common type of citizen science, and maybe most of the people, we are speaking about millions of people around the world, are contributing to citizen science in this way, and to science. Then there is a way for some people to collaborate more and more in detail in a wider range of activities within the science cycle. So if a group of people are collaborating with researchers, also in developing explanations and trying to analyze data together with them, then we are speaking to collaborative citizen science. So it's a way to engage more and more within science, and we should look at society as a complex reality. So within society, there are many people that brings information that are, I don't know, have some specific hobbies, specific skills, expertise that in this case can be used to collaborate with former scientists and professional scientists. And this way, their contribution could be even higher. So we could arrive to the co-created citizen science, where virtually any level, any activities within the science cycle can be carried out both by researchers and participants. So in this case, we are working together in any aspect. And you should take into consideration that, especially, I have clear in mind the biodiversity field, which is my field of my background. And in some cases, researchers could have the knowledge base to approach some researchers, some studies, but local people can know more and more about that particular habitat, that particular animal moving there, or specific places, or specific variations within seasons, and so on. So there is a local knowledge which can be used and put together to the formal knowledge to create this collaboration that is really very important to carry out research. And then, of course, researchers are usually reduced number of people, while society, group of people, associations, and so on are thousands of people, millions of people. So we have the opportunity to collect large data, big data. Another definition is that of Mukier-Clay, which, starting from the definitions and the three categories developed by Rick Bonney, describe four different levels, and the extreme citizen science is added. It's a collaborative science where the participation is even higher, but the concept itself is that we can move in the way that people can take part more and more in each level of research activity. Of course, as I told you before, the most common one, the higher number of people taking part to citizen science are within the contributory one, and then the numbers are diminishing if we go up to this pyramid. It doesn't mean that the upper part is more important than the bottom, because each one has a different value, but each one can take part depending on his own or her own knowledge and want to participate in many ways according to researchers. Then the scientific production in the last years, we saw, just have a quite quick look to these graphs. You see that there is a rise of citizen science projects and papers. These are papers published on peer-reviewed journals. So it's pure science that enlist members of the public to produce knowledge. So you see there is a steep increase in the last years of scientific production thanks to the to citizen science and to the participation of people, of the public. So why citizen science so is becoming so popular? So there is something that should be analyzed to be aware of what is going on and what are the main reasons for this success. And this could be useful also to define better the reality now and to put it forward for the future. Of course, as a first point, citizen science is an excellent engagement. It's a way to engage people and to create a strong collaboration within them. And so it's a unique opportunity that was not possible, not existing in the past. It's, of course, cost effective, the data collection, because citizen science is not free. Of course, we need resources to train researchers, to create tools, to allow people participate. But in comparison with similar results that can be obtained through the classic way to carry out science, it's much more cost effective. So we can engage millions of people, collect millions of data in comparison with a classic way to carry out research in a very cheapest way. Then technology. Of course, technology is now part of our everyday life, and we speak about technology anytime. We are also in this moment, I'm speaking to you from Italy, and other people are in other countries or other parts of Italy, and it's quite simple for us for doing this, because now it's something that we know that works, exists, but it is something that was impossible at least 10 years ago, or very, very difficult. So technology is helping us a lot. But in this case, it's helping anyone. But for citizen science, it's really very important because it creates the opportunity and foster the participation of people. Just thinking about the opportunity to access to the web. The internet was something, is something quite recent. Now we know it, and it's part of our everyday life, each moment of our life. But even in this case, it's something that was created and widespread at least 20 years ago, more or less, and was something that was not present before. But if you think about smartphones, smartphone is a real powerful instrument. Each one of us has a smartphone in her or his pocket, and it allows us to take a high quality picture or high quality video, to register a GPS point, quite precise one, to run app, so run software, open software, to upload information on the shot, because we are connected most of the time to the internet. So without spending any euro more, we have in our pockets a very powerful tool that can be used to collect data, to upload data, to read publications, to get in contact with other people, and so on. This is a huge, of huge importance, because it can be used every day, not only for the use that we currently do with it, but also for science, for specific apps, to ask researchers some information, or to upload a picture, or to take part to a project, and so on. So technology is helping, in particular, citizen scientists. Another point, very important, is that of data. In some cases, there are some researchers that still now are not totally convinced about citizen science data, because they say, okay, people are collecting data, but they are not reliable because they are not professional, they don't know how to do that, and so on. That's not true, because the basic of science is to use protocols, to use verifiable data, to check them and validate them. This is something that should be done for formal science and for citizen science. If we are taking part to a citizen science project where there is a specific protocol, specific data validation, data verification, at the final end, that data are trustable. And so it's something that is not different from the formal way of conducting science. I usually say that there is good science and bad science. There could be good citizen science or bad citizen science. It depends on the people that participate or that take part, or in this case, on researchers that can provide good tools or bad tools, good protocols or bad protocols. But it's not something that is related to citizen science itself. I hope this is clear. And then, of course, there is the volunteer involvement, and this is a way to engage with society. There are many people that are eager to take part, and they are looking for the opportunities for them to have a role, to spend their time for something that is worth. And so it's very important for them to provide their spare time for a final aim which is common and which can be useful for society. So the volunteer involvement is really important. And the last point, that from my point of view, it's a way for citizen science to be so popular, is that it has a diversity of approaches. So we need to define new methods, new way to engage the people, new way to bear with data, and so we need to put together different approaches, different solutions, and this is something very creative. Mukie Clay, one of the most important experts in Europe and worldwide on citizen science, used to say, "Sky is the limit," because it's something that has not a real limit. You are pushed to find out new solutions and to create new opportunities and to grab solutions and information from different fields and combine them in a new way. So it's really creative, and putting together scientific value, creativity, and social engagement is something really very important. And from my point of view, this is one of the way why citizen science is so popular. And this is something that has been recorded and recognized also by UNEP, which is the environmental institution of UN. And in a paper, they describe how the new issue, emerging issue, can be tackled with the collaboration of the public. So they define citizen science as a good potential to gather information, to gather data, also in the third world, also where it's very important to have first-hand information. And so UNEP recognized the value of citizen science and investing in forwarding it in a way that can be used for many people in many countries, in many populations. And for this is another approach, but we saw yesterday the very beautiful images coming from the new telescope of NASA, and I'm very much looking forward to see what will follow. But really, for decades, citizen scientists had a role on describing, defining, identifying systems in the starting from new planets. So many stars, many planets have been described by citizen scientists, because most of the people has this passion, and usually during the night, are used to observe highly defined pictures of the sky, and they are contributing a lot to the study of the sky. So astronomy is one of the most important fields of citizen science, where people are really contributed very much. So I will, I'm looking forward for this new approach applied to the new pictures taken by the new telescope that we will see. So maybe each one of you could have an idea now of what citizen science is, but I think that depending on the field of interest, depending on your background, maybe the limit is, it's also in my case, is that citizen science is seen as something specifically adapted to a specific context. We should see citizen science as something really very complex that can be performed in very different ways. So this is a short list of what citizen science could be. So from passive sensing, I told you about smartphones. You know that now you can buy a quite cheap sensor that can be plugged in a smartphone, and with this sensor there are also DIY sensors that you can build up by yourself. You can gather information on air quality, water quality, I don't know, almost any kind of environmental research. Then there is participatory sensing, where people just are collaborating by wearing some sensors and moving around. So there is many projects of this kind. One of the most important one is in Barcelona, Spain, where people are collaborating by collecting data on air quality, just moving around the city. There are about 4,000 people collaborating. And so they are collecting every day data on air quality in the city. What is the difference between the main way of carried out this kind of research? You know, there are sensors that are put in the city in specific places by the institutions, but there are few, 4, 5, 10. In this case, and they are high quality definition and high quality data. In this case, we have rather low quality data, but we have 4,000 people, and they are moving around the city in everyday life. So the model at the end is something that is much more, it's much closer to the everyday life. So people are more densely concentrated in some hours of the day or in some places of the city, and they are collecting data there. So it's something that could be less defined as a final data, but is more close to the people itself and to the reality itself. Then there is volunteer computing, where you are just giving your time, your CPU in your computer opportunity to perform calculations together with other people, volunteer thinking, environmental monitoring, and so on. So there is a way to also see our cities as a complex way to collect many kind of information for the area where there is more quiet and hushy areas, to the areas where there is more pollution or more biodiversity, or so it's many different approaches and ways depending on the people, starting also for the local communities, even in parts of the planet where people are not yet able to read. There are many extreme citizen science projects where local communities are involved just by drawing some simple concept and try to engage them, even without the need to read or to use complex solutions. So At this point, what are the common traits of citizen science projects? You see here a publication, and there is the PDF available at the URL I put here. That is describing how it's possible to learn through citizen science. And within this book, you find some a short list of the common traits. So how we can define a project as a citizen science project or not. So the first point is that a project, to be a citizen science one, should actively involve participants. Then it should engage participants with data. Otherwise, it's an education program. It's not a citizen science project. It's very important that data, as in science, has a central relevance. So the definition they put in the book is project where participants are solely engaged in science communication, science policy, but do not have a direct connection to the data generation or analysis and application, do not fall under the description of citizen science. So take this one as a very important point. Many currently defined citizen science projects are not really citizen science because they stop to science communication and science policy. But the real citizen science has to do with data collection, data analysis, data application. So this is important. Otherwise, it's not science. Another point, of course, I already spoke about this before. To collect data, we should use a systematic approach because we have to produce reliable knowledge. So it's important that we are doing seriously science. So systematic approach is important and protocols are important. So it's important to have standards of recognized standards of scientific integrity, follow practices common in science. And so the process is that I show you before in the cycle of science. So with the hypothesis, interpretations, and so on. So it should be rigorous. Otherwise, the final data are not reliable. So we want to collect reliable data. We want to do science together with the public. Of course, participants should be primarily not project-relevant scientists. Otherwise, it's classical research. So most of the people should be common people, members of the public. Then citizen science projects, to be called citizen science projects, should help advance science. So if we are just educating people, we are not doing citizen science. We must help advance science. What does it mean? So what advanced science means? It's something that could be made in many different ways. Novel discoveries, but also the advances can include documenting phenomenon within a knowing phenomenon within a novel context. So I can gather data that upload some knowledge, that update some knowledge, and I can define a single context more in detail, replication findings, and so on. But it should be something novel, something that didn't exist before the citizen science project was created and carried out. Could be also something really simple. And of course, participants in citizen science can benefit from participation. This is a really important point because a participant should feel part of the project, to be part of the team. And so it's very important to retain them over time, to provide feedbacks. And the feedback can be quite different depending on the type of people, depending on the context, and so on. And then, really very important, citizen science projects should communicate results. So there are many projects that stop at a certain point with no more updated. Citizen science at the end should provide to the community, but in particular to participants, some feedback. It could be, you know, a report, a presentation, a publication, and so on. But like science, formal science, citizen science have to communicate what have been achieved. I hope this is clear. I'm going quite quick, but if you have some questions, please stop me. I hope everything is clear until this point. I would like to speak a little bit about this large project, OPAL. OPAL is now stopped, but was a really important project in my background, in biodiversity, but not only, also air quality, water quality, that was carried out in the UK. And the National Lottery funded with millions of pounds, and the Imperial College had the opportunity to combine the participation of the public with several universities within the country to create specific surveys. And then they started with a model which is, from my point of view, quite important and applicable also to other contexts. So if you would like to start up with a citizen science project, so the first step is to choose a topic. So should be policy relevant, because people are more engaged if there is a policy relevance, and try to appoint lead scientists that can help you to define better the question. So define the research questions, develop the methodology needed to gather information and data to answer the main questions, design the field pack that can be used and usable by public, provide education and training material, established a national community science network. So it's important to promote, support local communities, train them, engage schools, and deliver research. So this is very important, because without our community, without referees, local referees for the project, for science, it's almost impossible to carry out a wide, in this case, UK-wide project. So engage with national and local media programs. So communication is very important. Also the website, of course, any kind of resources. In some cases also competitions, because, you know, society works also in this way. So if you go social, go with competition and so on, stimulate the participation of some kind of people. So data, of course, data collected should be visible, should be updated, should provide feedback, better if is an instant feedback, data analysis, and so on. And so it's important to manage all of this in terms of budget, time, and performance criteria. And any project should be evaluated since the beginning in any phase. So evaluation is something that is very important, because if you evaluate each phase of your project, in some cases you can define if there's something need to be changed, need to be corrected, and so you don't have to wait until the end of the project to modify it, or to say, okay, something went wrong. But if you define each phase and try to correct each phase, it's really very, very important, and can have more valuable information, and the result is really much better. So environmental citizen science, there are some driving forces. You know, we have these huge problems with environment, with need to go through a sustainable development. We have losing our ecosystem, there is the climate change, and so there are driving forces that put together people, and they want to take part because they want to move in some way and do something for this, trying to fix or to help fixing. And the aims, in some cases, I'm speaking about our field, so biodiversity, people take part because they want to support a change of lifestyle or need to spend more time outdoors. More and more people are living within cities and they are losing the contact with nature. But we also want to inspire a new generation of environmentalists and develop activities accessible by all ages. And at the end, try to collect this data because we want to have solutions at the end for policy purposes. And this has been done for in some cases. You see that at least for most countries in Europe, the monitoring scheme to see how specifically birds and butterflies are making within Europe, if they're increasing, subspecies are decreasing, or the effects of climate change and so on are coming, most of them, almost 90% of them, from citizen science. So there are people that regularly collect data, upload data, and data are used for this purpose. This is the butterfly initiative, assessing butterfly in Europe, ABLE, where there are surveys, there are trainings, people are trained to collect information on different butterflies, and then there are nodes that check all data and verify it and put together in a single database. So there is a huge conservation initiative for butterflies in Europe, at least. All these huge amount of approaches and relevance of citizen science brought in 2013, 2014 to the emerging associations. So I was lucky enough to be one of the few people that collaborated to create the European Citizen Science Association. This is our website now. And the same process went in Australia, in the US, and now is going on in other parts of the globe. So when we started, it was in July 2012. So exactly 10 years ago, we did the first meeting in London, and the start was the Opal project, what I described to you a few slides before. And we started to open to other countries, to other groups, to other people. And at the end, the idea of the Citizen Science Association was presented to the Green Week in June 2013 in Brussels. And then there was a large list of different meetings in different parts of Europe. This is Barcelona, Brussels, Berlin, and so on. And the association was based in Berlin at the Berlin Natural History Museums, and now it's growing. And this is our mission, is to connect citizen science through fostering active participation. What is very important is that we are working together with many other associations. In the picture here in the center, you see a picture of the participants of a workshop we organized in Germany in 2015. And there are exponents from Australia, from US, and from Europe. So we are trying to work together and to share as much as possible knowledge and information. And the 10 principles of citizen science were translated into 27 different languages, and now they are used by the Australian and the USA association. These are the different groups within the association trying to focus. This is a working group trying to focus on single aspects of citizen science. You see there is also a group on open science and citizen science, or a very specific one on global mosquito alert and so on. So it's quite an active association, very active. And our next meeting will be in Berlin next October. This is the network. You see, not only in Europe, but there are members also coming from other parts of the globe. And we are also member of other associations. So it's a huge community worldwide. In 2018, we produced this book. It's 800 pages, quite a large one. If you would like to have a look, it's free downloadable in the web as a PDF. And each chapter of this book describe specific application of citizen science in different fields with different solutions and so on. So it's very important as a reference for this. So this is the collaboration between the European Citizen Science Association, the American one, the Australian one, and within Europe, the association is trying to collaborate also with national initiatives, like in Germany and in Austria. And we are working at the Citizen Science Association in Italy, so we'll be the third. And we are fostering the creation of associations at the national level, so that there will be a coordination at the European level, or Australian or US, and then each nation could have a national coordination for this. Together, we created a platform. If you like to go there, I suggest to have a look, because EU Citizen Science is currently the formal platform for citizen science in Europe. So it has been translated in several languages. Each one can find the language of his country. And you can find their training resources, projects, tools, and so on. So it's quite open, updated each day, and gives the opportunity for any country to upload researchers, projects, and so on. So we are now going ahead with this. This was an Horizon 2020 project. Now we have an Horizon Europe project that will be started at the beginning of September, that will push further forward this project. So will be the former platform. And some national platforms are now growing with the open software provided by the European platform. So this is the European citizen science idea and different actors. And I would like to close this first presentation by summarizing what is the list of citizen science and the good practices. So when citizen science works best. Even in this case, there are two publications you see here, and you can download from the web. They have been published at least 9 years ago, but they are really very important in UK. And in that case, researchers try to study citizen science from outside, and they found that citizen science works best when you define very clearly the project aims, and you communicate very clear. In some cases, one of the most common errors could be to start a project with a general idea without defining in detail what we are looking for, what are our aim, and so we don't communicate it clearly. And this could be a problem since the beginning that have to be fixed. Then it's very important, if you are a specialist in a particular field and want to start a citizen science project, within the group, there should be also an expert in communication and publicity, because we are dealing with the public. We should use both tools appropriate for the field of research of this particular project, but also tools that help you to engage people and to communicate and to give the right publicity in the right way. So I already told you before, evaluation must be built into the project design. So if you should be able to listen, to adapt the project in any phase if it's necessary. So you can correct what you are doing day by day, week by week, trying to go for the best solutions and to fix any potential projects. Of course, the participants should feel part of the project, so carefully targeted, supported, and so it's very important to provide the tools that could be able to support properly the participants. And in some cases, one of the questions, of the problems that are very relevant is about motivation. So motivation is something that can be that should be taken seriously into consideration, both for participants and for member of the staff. So motivation is something that is the power, the engine of the project. Is something is not completely clear, his motivation is not high, maybe the project could fail. So pay attention to this. And so this is quite a conclusion. According to the points before, participants must feel part of the team. So they have a rule. The rule is very important, especially for the long-term project. And so they can grow within the project, learning more and more. So gain new skills while the project is going on. So just to close this third part, the final remarks are that, from my point of view, citizen science can be a brilliant way to understand good science and engage people with relevant issues in virtually any field of science. So it's hard work to support, to develop, to use, and to do citizen science, but could be enjoyable and very rewarding, both for organizers and participants. So it's not something that can be done easily, but it's worth trying, and it's giving up very relevant results from my point of view. So I will stop here for this first part and open to some questions, if you like, before moving to the quiz. I hope.
Thank you, Andrea. Very useful, very interesting and clear.
Okay, so we are almost on time also.
I think there is a question in the chat by Dolores. Is that a question for Andrea? Can you also show us how can we upload our citizen science activity on that page? Which page do you mean? The EU citizen science? Dolores? Can you see the
yes, EU citizen science. I'm here, but I don't see how can I upload our project there.
Okay, you have first to register yourself.
Okay.
And so when you are registered, you can take part to the community. So in that case, you can upload your project. You can also insert your institution, because there are a part with the project, another with resources, another with training tools, another with institutions. So once your institution is there, other people can get in contact with you.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. I see another question, Andrea.
Yes, thank you for your presentation. And I have a question regarding the, let's say, the nature of the sciences we have using this approach of citizen science, because I found this quite, let's say, it is important for natural sciences or even social sciences. But I never found a project in humanities, for instance. Do you have any examples of such approach in humanities, or do you think it's not really applicable for this kind of science?
No, it is applicable, and Alessia will speak about this later. So Alessia will be able to provide you some examples. And I should say that in general, we have to look to citizen science, not to something that can be applied any time to everything. So there are also some biodiversity projects where citizen science doesn't work, but it's really an opportunity, and in each case has to be evaluated. But in any case, humanities are one of the fields of citizen science.
Yeah, Andrea, this is the reason why we invited Alessia, because she is a project manager of this COISO project. Is about citizen science in social science and humanities. And then I will also speak about some project very shortly involving libraries, which I believe it is very important for our project. So. And then in case we need to deepen also this topic, we can also ask Alessia if she has got, she gives us another presentation. I don't want to abuse of her skills and competencies, but I think it could be very interesting to listen to her. Do you have any more questions? If not, I think we can proceed with the second presentation in order to have a break later on. What do you think, Andrea?
Yes, I will go with the quiz before the presentation.
There is a quiz.
So,
okay.
Yes, so I will share my screen again. Should be this one. Okay, you should see my screen now. You see a QR code?
Yes.
Okay. So you can use this with your PC or your smartphone, as you prefer. So there are two ways to access. You have to go to slido.com and you will find an hashtag. And within the hashtag, you have to write down citizen science.
Okay.
Or you can take a picture with your smartphone to the QR code. When you enter, so you have put citizen science, you will be asked to give your name, can be also a fantasy name as you like, and enter the quiz. So we'll see now who is joining the quiz right now. You see, tell me if you have some problems in, okay, I see Rosie, Alessia.
Shall we get started or
Yeah.
login?
No. No, you have just to go where there is the hashtag.
Yeah.
And write down citizen science.
Yeah. Join now. Join. Okay. Join.
Okay.
Yes. Join event.
And then put your name.
Okay. Okay.
So we have 6 people now. 8. Should be 12, I think. Maybe more.
A little bit. We are 8 now.
Yes. You can use your smartphone or just open your browser and use it from the PC. So I can repeat, you go to slido.com. Within the slido.com homepage, there is an hashtag. You have to write down citizen science within the hashtag with no capital letters, just one single word, citizen science, and then join and put your name. So we are 9 now. Maybe we are 3 people missing. Otherwise, we can start anyway, even if we are not all connected. I will wait few seconds. Anyway, all the others can follow the quiz, of course.
Okay.
I don't know if the three missing people are experiencing some problem.
We are nine people now.
Yeah. Should we start?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now there are 5 quite simple questions about citizen science concerning the presentation I gave it to you. And for each question, you will find many answers. You have to choose the answer that is the correct one. In some cases, there are answers that is similar to the correct one, but there's just one correct answer. And we'll see at the end what happens. So if you are ready, we start with the first question.
Yeah.
Okay, you have 20 seconds. What is citizen science? Citizen science is the engagement of people in communicating science, is the involvement of people in science, is the research made on citizens. So please choose your answer, what is correct for you. And now, okay, 100%, 100%. So it's really a good choice. Let's see what is the correct answer. Of course, this one. Great. So we can go to the next question. What are the field of interest of citizen science? Biodiversity monitoring through bioblitzes, air quality assessment with the public, monitoring health with the help of the citizens, or virtually any fields of science. What is the correct answer to this question for you? Great, you are really impressive. So 100%, let's see what is the correct one. Of course, is the last one, so it's great. Then go to the next. Citizen science have different values. What are the values of citizen science? Societal and educational and scientific. Societal, educational, scientific and policy making. Scientific and educational. Social, educational, scientific and economic. What are the right questions? Great. So it's the first time I have 100% in any correct answer. So great. You are doing really well. Of course, I show you the slide where the 4 values of citizen science were clearly defined, but in some cases people do not do some errors here, maybe choosing the first question, but policy making is really important. Thank you. So we are at the third. Let's move to the 4th question. Oh no, okay, we are already there. So Rosie, I don't know why the last 2 are not shown, but anyway, it was just a way to check it with you. So Rosie is the first because choose the 2/3. I don't know, there is something wrong because maybe all the questions was right. So
Yeah.
The quicker to give a response was Rosie, then Maria, then Janice, then Theodora. I don't know why. Okay, let's go to the fourth. Scientific production on citizen science is stable over the last decade, quickly increasing over time, moderately increasing in the last decade, or decreasing in the last decade. So this was the first. I don't know why it was put here, but anyway. Okay, in this case, we have 60% and 40%. The concept is that the production of citizen science is increasing, and this is clear. But as I show in the graphs, there are steep increasing, so it's very rapid. And the right question is this one. Anyway, both of them were almost correct. And so the last one, the application of citizen science to any field of science, what can do? Can help to disseminate knowledge, can help gathering scientific data, both the above answers or none of the above answers. This is quite simple anyway. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Thank you very much. So Rosie won, and then Maria, and then Theodora, and then Silvia. So great. This was just an exercise to interrupt the bothering presentation and boring presentation, and I guess it was interesting for you. So I interrupt my sharing, and I will share again with the presentation. Okay. You should see my next presentation.
Sì, Andrea, lo
It's
vediamo.
visible. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So now the second part, building up on what we said in the first part. So we trying to define citizen science and to describe it quickly. Now, this second part is more focused on case studies, best practices, and main hindrances. Specifically, case studies. I will try to give you an overview of the diversity of approaches and citizen science projects, because it's something that is very, very interesting from my point of view. Clay and other authors in a recent paper describe citizen science, defining it, the different types of citizen science project, define them into different categories. So they are speaking about longer running citizen science that encompasses mostly ecology and biodiversity projects, whether observation or archaeology. The citizen cyber science, which builds most on websites, on computer science, and so on. So this includes volunteer computing, volunteer thinking, passive sensing. I've already described a little bit something about this before in the previous presentation. And then community science. Community science could include participatory sensing, DIY sensing, civic science, and from my point of view, even social sciences and humanities can be included within community science. So it's just a way to create hierarchy, which is not a hierarchy of relevance, but just to define characteristics and differences among the different projects. So low running, citizen cyber science, and community science. So as I told you before, citizen science can have many different forms. There are games. You can participate in a game online, and just participating at that game, you are answering questions that are linked to the main questions of researchers. This is Philo is one of these examples. It's really amazing because you are just using your way to interact to provide information to the researchers about the logic within the game, and so within the development of alignment optimization, which is the final aim of the researchers. It's really complex to define and describe. If you are interested, please go to Philo project website, or very easy and wide project like school events which is collecting data on ants in different schools over all the globe, especially USA, and we have also in Italy a School of Ants project where students are asked to collect ants, and researchers are identifying them and so on. In the middle, there are a huge variety of different approaches. Speaking about cyber science, there is a quite important, maybe the most important website, which is called Zooniverse, and Zooniverse hosts tens and tens, maybe hundreds of different projects that anyone can start within. So the platform is providing you a way and facilities to start with new projects. But of course, the first step is to look whether there is an already existing project to be joined or applied in a different fields. One of the rules of citizen science is not to reinvent the wheel. So first of all, look at the different projects and see if there is something already existing. And usually the citizen science community is very open to reuse projects, to apply projects to different contexts, to different countries, and so on. So this is a very, very important open way to do science. So if you go to this platform, you will find that there are lots of classifications. We have millions of classifications and more than 2 million people registered. And the approaches and the types of projects are really quite diverse. So you will find projects on arts, on biology, on climate, on history, language, literature, medicine, nature, physics, social science, and space. The most relevant are space and biology or biodiversity, but there are also very good examples of other projects. Of course, all these are projects that can be done using the computer. So just sitting in your room, in your office, and using your spare time to interact and to take part to the projects. Even large institutions like NASA have their own citizen science projects, because almost any institution or university in the world now is focusing on the idea that citizen science is a new frontier. So NASA developed this mobile tracker app where NASA are asking people to match data they are collecting from an observatory mission and people that can collect with the ground truth on the ground, on their own area. So providing information and collaborating can help NASA to improve their knowledge and gives the people to the people the opportunity to participate in a research carried out by NASA. I See Change is another very important initiative, and the feedback in this case is to provide access to the community weather and climate journey. So people that are contributing to the project as a feedback have open access to some information that usually are not open. So it's a way to recognize the role of the people, and the fact that it's NASA itself to doing something tell us that is really something relevant and important. Going to a completely different field of application, another quite successful project, it's called Stall Catchers. This is also quite different to describe. It has to deal with Alzheimer. So Alzheimer is the 7th biggest killer in the world, and right now there is no cure. So researchers find out that in most of the cases with these images you see on the left, there are some specific objects like this one, they called stalls, that are linked to the Alzheimer's disease. So they took thousands, tens of thousands of pictures, and it's not possible right now using also the artificial intelligence to identify all of them. So they are asking people to collaborate by helping researchers to identify the pictures where stalls are present. So trying to put together all the data and see whether analyzing them, there is something that can be done to further develop the research for the Alzheimer. So this is quite a different approach, but in this case, your time, your expertise is needed over time to ask these questions very relevant from a health point of view and to help researchers. This is completely different again, just to give you the idea of the diversity of the different projects. In this case, it's quite interesting because it involves children, students, and was made in Sweden. And then in Sweden, researchers had a survey made more or less 100 years ago on the time some species of trees were losing their leaves or putting new leaves and so on. So the phenology of the trees. So they decide to investigate on the climate change, seeing if there is a way to compare all the historical data more than 100 years ago with recent data, but was very almost impossible to collect data all over the country in a single shot. So they asked the collaboration of pupils. Over 10,000 pupils submitted data on more than 2,000 trees for 378 different locations in Sweden. So in this way, they investigated these differences. The students had the opportunity to learn more and more in depth about climate change. They collected themselves the data and so learned something more about the phenology of trees. And this gave them the opportunity to be part of a scientific project and a scientific publication. And at the end, it was clear that there was the climate change moved the dates where the trees were losing leaves and so on. And so this was a clear message of how climate change is affecting the calendar of nature. You can easily understand how important it is be engaged in this way. If the same students could have read the research on a book, and that would be education. But taking part to the research, being one of the persons that collect actively data, provide data, and see how data are analyzed, makes you part of the system. And so you are leading the process, the knowledge process, to assess climate change. So it's something that is more and more profound. You are making science in this way. You are more engaged within the project and within science and within also the climate change question that is huge. So this is the difference between environmental education and citizen science. Another examples from the biodiversity approach is that of the Paris Natural History Museum, and they started in 1981 first with a breeding bird survey at the national level, and then adopted different approaches, and at the end developed this project, and has a huge website with several citizen science projects engaging different kinds of people. In this case, this people project was just built up around the idea that anyone in the country can choose a bush or a tree and stop just, I think 10 minutes just in front of it, and take a picture of any insect that visit the flowers in that time. So 20 minutes. And then you have to upload the picture, and within the website, you can follow instructions how to choose the right picture if you have different pictures of the same individual, and how to use web resources to identify the picture, and then you can upload it. Then there are some experts that verify the pictures that you have uploaded. So each one can take part in any kind of way, in any way, in different, I don't know, if there is a public garden, a private garden, or whatever, in wildlife and so on. And so in this way, each one can contribute, can learn, can provide information to the monitoring of pollinator insects at the national level. This is another large project in Germany, the German barcode of life, where it's very important to analyze any sample, specifically insects, but not only insects, to extract DNA, create a barcode, and apply this barcode, uploading in a specific website. In this case, citizen scientists provided information in different levels, in different phases of this huge project that is currently going on. And the Natural History Museums, I'm the director of a Natural History Museum, so I know more about this, are providing several tools for people to take part. Mainly the large museums like Paris, London, Berlin, but also Bonn, and so on. Also, our tiny museum is providing several tools. And in some cases also, as a participants, you have the opportunity to access the collections of the museums. There could be botanical collections, or minerals, or microphotography, or so on, and help researchers in identifying, in writing labels that are handwritten and need to be interpreted and typed. So there are many different ways and apps and web facilities to help research, in this case within museums, to go further and to gather more and more data. One of the most important examples, I spoke to you before in the first part, in the first presentation, about policy making. One important example from my point of view of policy making is that collected with the presence of plastics. We are producing more than 300 million tons of plastics every year. So it's a huge amount of plastic, and about 8 million tons of plastic waste enters the world's ocean each year. So it's really dramatic. So the European Environmental Agency started years ago a citizen science project and an app, which is Marine Litter Watch, and created the opportunities for people to take part, trying to identify a way to tackle this problem. So the project itself provided the opportunities for people to participate in events of cleaning the beaches, which were not only clean up all the plastic, but also identifying the typology of objects and counting them. So following a specific protocol, it was possible to clean the beach, but also count and identify the main objects. And these data were all uploaded to the EEA database and analyzed at the European level. So were collected about 700,000 objects with more than 1,600 cleanup events. You see on the right the main results. So depending on the sea you are taking into account, the type of plastics you can find changes a lot, because it changed the way plastic is used by the countries that are just in front of that sea, the river system, and so on. So we may need a different approach in different parts of Europe. But most importantly, at the end, they made a list of the most common items found on the beach, and this was put together with the data collected in the past by several universities, and they are totally agreed, but was made with citizen science in a broader context with high numbers. So putting together all this information, this was the basic for the EU Commission to take the decisions of stop producing and selling some kinds of plastic. So this was the final solution, and people that helped in collecting this kind of information had the final result to have contributed to provide evidences for a policy against plastic waste. So this, from my point of view, is a real win-win context. It's really important. Then coming to my field of interest, I would like to say you something about bioblitzes, because it's something really important and interesting from my point of view. We are personally organize a bioblitz each year. A bioblitz is a 24-hour event, and we usually choose a specific area. In most cases, it's a remote area, and within that area, there are experts that could be formal institution researchers, but also members of the public that are particular experts in a specific group of insects or plants and so on. So we have experts from I don't know, lichens to insects to plants and so on, and then birds and reptiles and the general public. And together we have a base camp where people meet, and from the base camp we are moving around in nature to collect as much information as possible during 24 hours, night and day. So why bioblitzing is important? Because it can collect data that are useful for EU environmental policy areas, for invasive species and biodiversity monitoring. These are some pictures of the bioblitzes we are organizing, and participants, they are starting from the base camp and then moving around. There are experts, each one has a small kit of facilities. This is the last we organized at the end of May this year in this beautiful place. And this is the kit we are providing to people, a brochure with a calendar, the program of the BioBlitz, the map of the reserve, so each one can move around the reserve, a knapsack with a BioBlitz logo containing all the material, and a block note that people can use. And then we have also an app that people can use to upload their pictures to animals and plants. So during the day, live data are uploaded. And this was the area of this year. You see the map, you see some points of interest where some gathering of information, some data collection was performed, and a picture of the environment there. And this was the program of the day. So it's Saturday and Sunday, 24 hours. Each hour there are different activities. activity dedicated to birds, the mammals, and so on. People can choose any activity or more than one in different hours and take part. These are some of the different, there are more than 20 different activities, some 6 examples. So during the night, there are bat detectors for bats moving around, or light trapping for insects, and then monitoring of lichens, amphibians, fish, botanical excursions, and so on. It's really a way to create a community and to engage people and researchers together and to move them toward a common central meeting point. These are the preliminary results of this year, and at the end we have a report of all the data collected. This was the most relevant species we collected, and then there is a map, an online map, and so on. And with the report each year we communicate to the people what we found, how important was their contribution to our BioBlitz. Just to finish also this second part, I would like to stress something about the relevance of citizen science for the sustainable development goals. So I guess all of you are familiar with 17 SDGs that were established in 2015, and we are trying to focus on how citizen science can help reaching these objectives, so these goals. So in a quite recent paper, I just told you something about the UNEP. It was clearly defined that citizen science can use also with local communities, very low cost technologies, in some cases really very simple. Sky is the limit, remember, so it could be quite simple to build useful tools in the field and provide training for the local people to use it. So this will give us information never collected before, with a wide range, even geographical wide range. So citizen science in this context is an emerging opportunity to engage communities with the progress of the SDGs. So especially for the developing countries. So there is a recent paper published on this. So the aim was to map citizen science contribution to the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and the results found that by analyzing the already existing citizen science project, some of them are already contributing to reaching the SDGs, and the main citizen science contribution concerns the SDGs 15, life on land, 11, sustainable cities and communities, 3, good health and well-being, and 6, clean water and sanitation. So we are already contributing, but we know that we can do much, much more, and possibly we can do much more with citizen science, more than using formal science. In this picture, it's complex, but it's quite easy to read. You see on the left this list with the drawings. There are simply the 17th SDGs, and you see on the right there are squares, the gray, yellow, and green. The green square is where citizen science is already contributing, because within each SDG there are several micro objectives that can be used for monitoring. And so the yellow are the activities where citizen science could be useful. So you see there is an untapped potential here that can be used for the future, trying to focus more and more on the SDGs. So this is a specific picture of the activities more interesting for citizen science, where citizen science is really contributing, and is really important to see that the contribution in some cases, in some contexts, is really important. Thank you for your attention. I will stop here, so we'll give you the opportunity for questions and comments.
Thank you for being there. And just a point on the cameras, there is no obligation, but if you wish to put on your camera, and I put my mic more near to my mouth, you are free to do so. So I will feel less like I will give a presentation to the screen, as you know, because I think that many of you experienced this thing, right? So if you feel like me when you are in this situation, please put on your camera and be with me on screen. So the identification of citizen science as an umbrella term, common name, gathering a wide range of activities and practice, together with a rising interest for new web collaborations between research and society, has caused this steady increase that Andrea talked about in visibility for citizen science practices in recent years. So Andrea already gave you the best possible overview of citizen science. I may come back on some point, telling the story from another point of view. So the point of view of social science in the humanities. And this might help, I hope, to fix what are the most important points to keep in mind. So even if it is generally agreed that citizen science is an interdisciplinary endeavor, some disciplines are nevertheless perceived are less represented than others. And this is the case of social science in the humanities, even if these disciplines have a long tradition of collaboration with society and to tackle research questions or for civic engagement. I will not introduce today the different hypotheses that have been advanced regarding this lack of recognition, but I will rather highlight how citizen science can be performed involving the social science and humanities disciplines and methodologies. But before entering the topic, because I have a background in philosophy, so we will take a long journey before coming to the point. Before entering the topic, I need to take a step back and start again from the naming and framing of citizen science. So we say that citizen science is said to be an umbrella term, gathering a wide range of activities. It is a term that has been chosen to refer to a broad field of research practices, a term that is supposedly encompassing, but whose component, citizens and science, may not reflect the full spectrum of collaborative research practices between academia and the other social actors involved in a common research. The American Citizen Science Association, during their last conference in May, opened a discussion on whether citizen science should be kept or not as an umbrella term. And this might worry you maybe because we are about to introduce a term and we are already saying to you that not only does the name not agree with everyone, but that one of the major associations promoting the practice is thinking about changing its name. But what is important here is to understand why. So the questioning raised by the Citizen Science Association mainly concerned the term citizens, far less with the term science, even though some disciplines are more inclined to use the term research. So they focus on citizens because it is considered detrimental to those people involved in some project and who sometimes do not have the status of citizens. And this increasingly happens as far as citizen science projects are proactively searching to involve vulnerable social groups in citizen science projects. But another reason to criticize the term citizens comes from the way it is used as a generic synonym of people without any specific skills that might be perceived in some context as a negative way of saying that we are talking about unskilled people. So within the COESO project, for example, the COESO project that I'm coordinating, we choose to use, for instance, engaged stakeholders, also because we work with smaller teams. And here the most important term is engaged. We may say engaged citizens also. The will is to highlight the engagement on a specific domain and recognizing that every person engaged in a citizen science project brings specific knowledge that is important to recognize. You already saw a lot of definition of citizen science. I'm saying to you that there is a multiplicity of names. And this has to do with the field itself that resists to being delimited by hard boundaries. And what is important to note also is that each of the names of citizen science, civic research, participatory research, and all the names that you will find say something about the specific method that is used in the project and the type of collaboration that is implemented with the participant, contributors, collaborators, whatever the name it is attributed to them, who are not professional researchers belonging to the academia. So what I think it is important, really important to remind is that citizen science implies a great variety of methodologies, stakeholders involved, as well as data and output formats, and local and professional languages that are used. And to recognize citizen science practices among this diversity of names, it is important to stick on as common as possible definition of the practice. So what these different definitions have in common? So I will provide another definition, but the most important is to understand the point. They are research practices, and they aim at solve a common research problem through the joint involvement of professional researchers, mainly belong to the academic world, and participants or contributors who actively contribute to the common research. So here the most important words are research practices, common research problem, and active contribution. Once we have tried to define the boundaries of the practice, we try to describe it more in depth. And we saw in the Andrea presentation that there are many typologies and way of classifying the collaboration within citizen science. Several attempts have been made to propose this classification. There is the classification of Riciboni that Andrea presented, and the one of the geographer Mukia Clay that has been highly cited during the previous 2 hours. And the two have in common that they focus on the type of the collaboration. So, for example, a clay, that will be also the classification, the description that I will mostly use, are 4 levels: crowdsourcing, that are mainly researchers-led practices; distributed science, in which non-professional researchers can make basic interpretation; participatory science, that is a tricky way to name the level, because in some languages participatory science is a synonym of citizen science. And finally, the collaborative research science, that is called also extreme citizen science or community science, in which the non-professional researchers participate in all stages of the problem definition, collection, and analysis. But there is also another way of classifying the citizen science project. One is suggested by Andrea Wiggins and Kevin Croston that focus more on the objective of the project. It can be an action project, a project that is oriented towards an action, can be heritage conservation or investigation. It can have a different level of virtuality and can have educational objective. This different way of describing the project came from the information and communication studies. So they have also a different ways to name again the boundaries and the description of the practices. So now that we have the definition and the description, where do we start searching for citizen science project in the social science and the humanities? If these disciplines didn't use the term citizen science before the steady increase of the use of the term. So we have to make some research and to have an inquire path and go seeking for where finding them. So firstly, we find it in the different ways of referring to public engagement. For example, on the one hand, the more widespread model of communicating science understood as the transmission of research results. And on the other hand, the idea that in order to build a consolidating common knowledge base with society's participation in the production of science is more effective. So these are two ways to understand public engagement. And these two models, the model of communicating science and the other one that build a consolidated common knowledge with societal actors, are commonly represented under these two names, public understanding of science and public engagement with science. The public understanding of science can be found first in a report that is called Bodmer report that has been published by the Royal Society in 1995, and it is considered a starting point, at least in the British context, for this way of talking about public engagement. And then there is the public engagement with science, the model for which is identified by practices studied by Brian Wynne in a book that is called Risk, Environment and Modernity, and that concerned the disputes between farmers and scientists' knowledge on the fallout of the Chernobyl disaster on the British soil. Wynne also participated on behalf of the European Commission to a report that has been published in 2007 that is called Taking European Knowledge Society Seriously. Why I'm talking about public engagement and these two positions? First, to highlight that these two ways of engage with science are far from being so rigidly separated. They move, they intertwine, they follow, they oppose each other. And their effect, the effect of this intertwining is also visible in the successive designation of one of the European research funding programs dedicated to collaborative research projects, which over the last 20 years have been called in different ways. First, Science and Society under the FP6 framework program, then Science in Society within the FP7 program, and finally Science with and for Society during the Horizon 2020 project. Some of you used to be involved or help researchers to have funding in this program. You may have found these differences. I don't want to say that all the activities in the fields of public humanities or public social sciences includes citizen science practices. As to say, the active participation of contributors in a common research activities. But I wish to say that within these fields, historically, there are activities that fall under the broad description of citizen science. So why put so much attention to naming and framing as I am doing? Also because the attention and resources that can be allocated to such endeavors are influenced by the naming and framing used by public policies and funding. So we need to know what is called how, also to help find funding or help researchers understand that what they are doing fall under these umbrella terms. And it is even more important now that citizen science is mainstreamed within the open science policies. And it is of high importance, as it is for the social scientists of the humanities, to be clear on the particular relevance of the two practices of citizen science and the methodology of social science and the humanities, because both are specific practices capable of producing fundamental knowledge, which can only be produced through this specific practice. Before moving on to some project examples, I wish to make a final consideration. In all this diversity of ways of naming citizen science, these ways of implementing citizen science in its diversity of practice, and by this diversity of naming and framing, translating what happens in collaboration, it is as if we were trying to rediscover something that has been lost. The fact that research, science, are a collective effort embedded in social and collective needs. But at the same time, this variety and the defense of certain terms, first and foremost the terms of science and its prerogatives, tell us also that there is something that has been gained recently and that is to be protected, that one does not want to lose. And this is a kind of sacred space in which one has the right to make a step back to reflect on what and how we are doing citizen science. And often this space is the academic one. So citizen science, whatever we decline and call it in the specific context of the different disciplines, it is an interstitial space that connects the 2 points, that holds them together, solving collective problems collectively and having a space in which to reflect on how we do it. So now the moment you were expecting, where to find social science and humanities project. I said at the beginning that some disciplines are perceived as less represented than others, and citizen science projects involving social science and the humanities are less indexed in the most known platform, like for example the Universe that you are seeing on the screen right now, even though there is currently an active effort to collect more information about the ongoing project in the social science and the humanities. We saw that one of the reasons might be the fact that practitioners don't recognize themselves into the umbrella term of citizen science, and so they don't see or feel the need to be recognized within this community and record their entries in these platforms. Here you have another platform that is the EU Citizen Science one, and as this one you have then other national platforms that gather several projects within citizen science and may have specific entries to sort out projects in the social science and the humanities. It is easier to recognize, find, and document contributory projects using digital platforms, whether they are led by researchers or not. In France, the community around citizen science, that is called, rather called participatory research, recherche participative in French, is quite widespread, especially since the publication of a report in 2016 on participatory research that didn't mention the contribution of the cultural research and called the actors of the field to make themselves visible by building another report and a specific platform to make cultural participatory research visible. And this is the Participark platform that you are seeing in the screen. So this platform has been built for gather a list of projects in the cultural field. Another French research project that is called Collabora was interested to understand how digital platform can renew online participation in collective knowledge production and data gathering. And they created an observatory to review projects that use digital platform to build collective, more or less structured databases. Because the focus of the Collabora project is more to understand the use of digital platform for participatory endeavors, not all the project includes the participation of are led by professional researchers. But as we saw in the typologies of citizen science, some researchers include under the citizen science umbrella also projects that don't have professional researchers that actively participate in the project. So this is a matter of discussion, so it is important to be aware of this. There are several domains where social science and the humanities can use citizen science approaches: arts and literature, archives, history, popular culture, music, audiovisual media, heritage, and tourism. And they can be data production, inventory of data and digital object or not digital object, crowdsourcing information, collaborative transcription and correction of text, indexing images or document, correction and enrichment of metadata. And some example of crowdsourcing collective intelligence can be transcribe Bentham, that involve the public in the online transcription of original manuscript of Jeremy Bentham. Or another example is the platform Kronos that invite to contribute to an historical map. Then there is Citizen that involve volunteers to identify, manage and protect archaeological sites in the UK coastal areas. Or we can have projects like Ajapike, that is a contributory platform to build up on Estonian photo library. But we can have also project on the genealogy and far more project in cultural heritage. And indeed, together with the collaborative transcription, the contributory project in the discipline of history and archaeology or cultural heritage are more easily findable. So we more easily find crowdsourcing projects involving a lot of people for gathering data, and we may conclude that this is the most of citizen science, also in the social science, in the humanities. But these endeavors ask for the contribution of a large panel of participants to collect a big amount of data, and for that they need to provide a big effort in communication. And they need also a technical infrastructure able to allow the data gathering and control. So we may argue that what is supposed to be the cause, citizen science is mostly crowdsourcing, could instead be the consequence of differentiated needs in terms of communication that facilitate the recording, archiving, and findability of this project. And there is other kind of collaboration that have also different scales that exist that are less visible. They involve far less participants, are very local, and work on innovating methodologies rather than collecting data. So here you have two examples of collaboration between researchers and journalists. So the Places project has been run in France, funded by the Ministry of Culture, and gathered 3 inquiries covering social issues such as migration, gender, and health, where the researchers and the journalists defined together the subject of study, explored the field of inquiry together, and they produced a shared data set and a common analysis of it. So the report that you see here, for now it is still only in French. It is Journalistes et chercheurs mènent l'enquête, but you can find a summary also in the project website, but I cannot use the chat, so I will send you the link later. Another example is the project on the left, that is a criminologist and a journalist that worked together to improve the response of the justice to victims of sexual assault. So the interesting things here is that they also described their collaboration in this article that you are seeing here. And they describe how they worked together and the challenges they faced for undertake their collaboration. Here you have 2 examples coming from the Coeso project. The one on the left, Saidade Invisible, gathers social anthropologists and historians with a local NGO that promotes sustainable development, and they wish to create together the Lisbon Tourism Observatory. So together they are investigating the effects that mass tourism have on the local community. And their goal is to develop strategies that promote dialogue and reduce tensions among the local citizens, authorities, and policymakers. The project on the right is called Dancing Philosophy and involves 2 distinct collaborations, a philosopher with a dancer choreographer on one side, and a performance studies researchers with a choreographer and dance notator on the other. Together, they have facilitated dance workshop in France and Italy, and they also use a technological tool called Memorecall to document and explore the connection of dance movement with the philosophical notion of certain desires. And in both, for the researchers and for the dancer and choreography was an opportunity to challenge and renew their methodology of practicing dance, of writing choreography, and teaching philosophy. So in this small scale, high intensity collaboration, there is a challenge in mutual learning, because the learning posture needs to be symmetrical for these kinds of collaboration to be successful, and everyone involved should be ready to learn something from the partner. These approaches can be also combined with other approaches. As I told, for the tourism observatory, you see there is an ONG and researchers that work together very close to build a common problem, then to understand how to tackle the problem, define a methodology, and then they will involve other citizens in more or less participatory ways to join their research. So you see 2 levels can be joined together. In these approaches, we see more clearly also the question of local communities that can be involved in citizen science projects, can be local in several meanings. Local in the space, local because of they are discipline framed, local because they are involving a specific community of practice, like the dancer, for example. So to discover more projects like this, and I'm at the end of what I wish to share with you. So to discover more projects like this, we need to keep the definition in mind, to keep in mind that it is important to recognize the differences in naming and framing citizen science, participatory research activities, and as an explorer, go catching examples and give them value and help the community of the humanities and social sciences to make them visible. And that's it for me. If you have any question.
So you will see that we will speak, I also will speak and repeat something which has already been said by the three previously presentations. I hope to give you also some hints in order to practice citizen science in our libraries. Okay, first of all, why research libraries and what can research libraries do for citizen science? We can have many different roles and practice many activities. For example, we can develop skills for engaging citizen science project, support build toolkits for developing citizen science in our institution, build collection of protocols and educational materials, contribute to making data gathered from Citizen Science Project FAIR. And you know, FAIR is an acronym from findable, accessible, interoperable, and usable. Offer repository infrastructure for data of citizen science projects, contribute to evaluation processes, participate. This is a very important role for libraries, both for research and academic and for public libraries. Participate in recruitment and retention processes, train and assist volunteers, participate in marketing activities, promote a positive attitude, promote citizen science projects, disseminate. So we have many different fields, activities we can be involved in. Of course, public libraries are also very important in order to engage communities. And this is a quotation from She Started Librarian's Guide. She started, we will see, is a platform. Is very similar in scope and aim to Zooniverse, which has already been quoted by Andrea and Alessia. And in this guide, we can read the mission Citizen Science aligns with public libraries and many community organizations as we collectively strive to ensure equitable access to information, increase knowledge, create participatory lifelong learning experiences, and build and support diverse communities. So what public libraries can do for citizen science, I think roles are quite partly similar and partly overlaps with academic libraries, but partly is also different. For example, academic libraries have a great role in data, a role which academic libraries really don't have. So public libraries are much more about dissemination. Can work on dissemination of main concepts of open science and citizen science. As we know, open science. Today we haven't spoken about open science, but we all know that citizen science is one of 8 pillars of open science. So we can disseminate, we can engage volunteers, train and assist volunteers, build kits and toolkits, and Andrea showed us, for example, the kit for the Museo of Marina Naturale of Marina project, the Citizen Science project, and build tutorials, for example, on open science and citizen science. Notice that some tutorials already exist in English, and so we don't have to build new tutorials. We can also use tutorials which already exist. I will tell you where we can find those tutorials. Citizen Science in Action is a very interesting and known project of the University of Barcelona and Municipality of Barcelona. And the aim of this project is to demonstrate potential of libraries and of librarians to promote citizen science initiatives. The project was managed by Open System Research Center of the University of Barcelona in collaboration with Barcelona Municipality, and the aim was to engage the Barcelona network of public libraries. Two were the main activities of a project: a citizen science laboratory for 30 librarians, staff from 24 Catalan public libraries. And then the second activity was the co-creation of a citizen science project involving users, 40 users, 7 librarians, and of course researchers of the Open System Research Center of the University of Barcelona. If you want to know more on this project, there is also an article published by Anna Cigarini and others researchers on Data in Brief, which is Citizen Science in Public Libraries. This is about the Barcelona project. And then another readings I suggest you is also Merrick Walker Libraries and Citizen Science. And probably you recognize, you know personally Tiberius and Poleris and some of the authors of this paper. This paper is about research libraries. So I told you dissemination is an important role for academic libraries. So I was contacted by these 2 librarians of the Université Paris-Saclay. They produced, they are librarians, and the library produced this video on citizen science to take part to the Fête de la Science, the Science Festa, come si produce? How do you, Science
Party.
The Science Party, okay. From
Festival.
The French
Festival.
Festival, okay. If you want to give a look, this is in French. I think it's very well done. If you understand French, you can give a look at this video. Cedric, the guy, was very interested also in our project. So I had a contact with them, and they are now involved in other citizen science activities, library, I mean. Probably you know this, but this is the CIDANC's University Citizen Science Knowledge Center, because this university, and we all know them, of course, is much involved in citizen science. They also established this Citizen Science Knowledge Center, which is hosted by the library. And the center, it is anchored at all faculties of the CIDANC University, and as well at the Odense University Hospital. This is a project the CIDANC University in social sciences, the CIDANC University is involved in, and the library too, of course. And this is about citizen-driven journalism. The project involves some Danish classroom. One of aim of the project is to involve pupils in the construction of media. I don't know exactly how to do that, but I found this a very nice example of a project in citizen science and humanities. Now, Alessia told us about crowdsourcing. Crowdsourcing is a very interesting field of action for citizen science in social science and humanities, and for libraries as well. Probably you know all what crowdsourcing is. I chose here a definition from the Crowdsourcing and Citizen Science Act of the US Congress. Anyway, you know, crowdsourcing is, of course, a method to obtain needed services, ideas, or content by soliciting voluntary contribution from a group of individuals, organizations, especially from an online community. As also Alessia said previously, is a new method to foster collections by soliciting, for example, transcriptions, also metadata enrichment, storytelling, and so on. There are many different projects in this crowdsourcing field, especially on collection. This project, also Alessia spoke about Transcribe Bentham. Transcribe Bentham was conceived and developed by the University College London in 2010, 12 years ago. It involves library. Is interesting because some of these projects don't involve libraries. I mean, are projects of digital humanities, of citizen science, but don't involve libraries. But this project specifically, it involved the UCL library. And the project, the aim of the project is to engage the public in the online transcription of original and unstudied manuscripts by Jeremy Bentham, which is a philosopher, an English philosopher. And at the latest count, 30,000 pages of Bentham writings have been transcribed by volunteers. These transcriptions are all preserved, archived, and preserved in UCL Library digital repository. This is a transcription desk. Of course, you have to register in order to take part in this transcription, and yes, just to show you also this desk, and notice that this desk was developed by the UCL as well, while other crowdsourcing citizen science projects, they are hosted by Zooniverse, as also Alessia said, but this project is not hosted by Zooniverse. What was the role, specifically the role of the library in this project? The library collaborated in training the volunteers, because of course volunteers must learn to use the desk and to interact with the desk in order to transcribe the pages of the manuscripts. There was also quality control of a transcription. Andrea told us that quality of data is an important issue in citizen science, and of course, in different projects, there is also quality control of data, in this case, transcription gathered through volunteers. And then, of course, the role has got the library has got a role in preservation of the materials, both digitized materials and the transcriptions in the UCL repository. This is a very similar project in aim, is about transcription of notebooks of Humphrey Davy, scientific and literary scholar of the early 19th century in Britain, and I show this to you because this project is hosted on Zooniverse. So, British Library has got a platform for crowdsourcing projects, and the platform is LibCrowds. And as you can see from this screenshot, the platform gathers 175 projects of crowdsourcing project. Part of them are citizen science project, part are not really citizen science project. Anyway, this is a crowdsourcing platform. It's a huge crowdsourcing platform for a collection of British Library. And as you see, there are almost 3,000 volunteers taking part and actively collaborating in these projects. One of the projects is Living with Machine. This project also involves the Alan Turing Institute, which is, I suppose, a research institute of the British Research Institute, the British Library, University of Cambridge, East Anglia, Exeter, and London. And the aim of the project is to harness combined power of massive digitized historical collection and computational analytical tools to examine the ways in which technology altered the human existence. Technology, it refers mainly to the first industrial revolution, from the first industrial revolution up to, I suppose, the mid of 19th century. Here you have some links, and you see there is also this. This is this on this page. You see. Learning from Zooniverse volunteers to improve crowdsourcing project. Yes, because we will speak about Zooniverse a bit later, but in any case, you already know Zooniverse is this big portal which gathers citizen science projects in many different fields and disciplines. And of course, in order to make your own project visible on Zooniverse, you need to use Zooniverse Project Builder and to register and to use Zooniverse Project Builder. It's quite easy to use it, but we should know that how to do that, and there is this project builder which you can use in order to make your own project available on the Zooniverse platform. By the way, Mia Ridge is a librarian. She is also, I suppose, in the Liber Citizen Science, is a member of the Liber Citizen Science working group. So let's go back. I lost my presentation. Okay. Probably you have noticed that when Alessia showed us EU citizen science, there was also a post on Europeana Transcribe. Europeana Transcribe is the European platform based on Europeana collections to start transcription of collection in Europeana. Of course, has been developed by European Union recently. It has been recently changed. It has been updated. It has been recently updated. And it refers, of course, to Europe Digital Cultural Heritage. It's a citizen science initiative for the region to digitize materials from Europeana collection. If you do have a collection in Europeana, you can also start your own project on Europeana Transcribe. This is a tool, Transcribus. This is a tool developed by another European project, the European project READ, and is a tool which allows people to transcribe in a collective way. I think it's a free software. It is now managed by a cooperative, which is Read Coop, and is of course it combines artificial intelligence for the transcription of text, artificial intelligence, and crowdsourcing. You can use both. It is a combination on both, or you can use only artificial intelligence, or you can use artificial intelligence combined with crowdsourcing from volunteers. This is slide just to show you that we had in Italy. I followed this training session on Transcribus just 2 days ago, and you see they also speak about citizen science because it is a tool also to practice citizen science. And about crowdsourcing collections, which are very interesting for libraries, I also show you this project of a Catalan, Catalan library, state library, Biblioteca de Catalunya. And this project, Transcriumi, also involves the University of Barcelona libraries. It involves many libraries in Catalonia. It is managed by Biblioteca de Catalunya, but involves many libraries in Catalonia. And among the other libraries, also University of Barcelona library. And as a matter of fact, this is a post on the first collection, which has been transcribed thanks to the platform Transcriumi, and this is a post of the University of Barcelona libraries on the first collection. And you see the date is 2015, so it's already they are already working on this since 7 years. The University of Zurich has got also a very interesting activity on citizen science, and let's call it crowdsourced science, although I believe Andrea and Alessia might tell us this is not a really citizen science, but yes, okay, let's call that citizen science as well. It's about always collection, it's about manuscript, transcription. You see different collection you can find here on this on the portal of the University of Zurich library devoted to the citizen science. Okay, many of them are on crowdsourcing, of course, as already said before. Okay, some useful tools and tips are part of a project. As I told you, we have already many training materials on citizen science. For example, there is this Open Science Training Handbook developed by the Foster European Project, which has been translated in many different languages. This is the English version, but there are many translations. It has been translated in Italian. I think it is a useful tool just to introduce the concept of open science, and among the open science, of course, citizen science too. Of course, you already know about EXA, the European Citizen Science Association. EXA holds every year a conference in Europe, and this year the conference will be in October, if I well remember, in Berlin. some tutorials you also find on this platform, the She Starter platform, which is very similar in scope with Zooniverse. This is a tutorial provided by the National Library of Medicine. Take notice that She Starter is a US platform, so it is very much oriented on in the US area, much more than in European area. But it is useful to give a look at She Starter as a platform and all the tutorials and materials for libraries that you find on the platform. Okay, this is about EXA, because EXA has got also EXA has got many working groups, and one working groups of EXA is about citizen science in universities, and I believe that one of the coordinator or chair of the group is Thomas. So just to tell you that if you want to become a member of EXA, you can also take part in the Citizen Science and University Working Group by the European Citizen Science Association. Okay, this is the conference, the next European conference in Berlin. We already, Andrea and Alessia already told you about Zooniverse. Give a look at it, because you find some projects in social science and humanities in different categories like history, arts, literature. Alessia showed us there are also these kind of categories. This is the Zooniverse project builder. We already spoke about that. In order to upload in order to create your project, upload your data on Zooniverse. This platform also, Alessia told us about Participark, which is the platform of the French Ministry of Culture, for the citizen science projects in cultural heritage. Okay, She Starter, we already spoke about this platform. This is the screenshot of the platform, and this is the screenshot of a guide. They produced a guide for librarians, for the library community, the guide in well, I don't remember now the year they published this guide. Anyway, as I told you, this guide is interesting, but is very it focuses on United States area, and is a guide for public libraries. While for research libraries, we all should know, of course, that the LIBER, Citizen Science Working Group, is going to publish also a guide for research libraries, and publish this guide, I suppose, 1 year ago, probably. And it is only the first part of its first volume of the guide. Is about skilling for library staff, researchers, and the public. I wanted to show you some content very quickly. The guys here, okay. Of course, the Sidanks University was also was also involved. Okay, the co-editor in chief is Thomas, so probably you already know this guide. Anyway, it's I find this very useful, and above all focuses on research libraries. Oops, go back to okay. Okay, sorry, but Also in my presentation, you will see the most important portal for citizen science in the European Union is EU Citizen Science. Alessia, you see the interface, also the web interface, you can choose your language. This is in Italian, sorry. Anyway, there is also, of course, English, French interface as well. And here you find different, you find project, resources, you also find tools for training and different organization in citizen science. This part is also important because, for example, okay, the project, just to tell you a couple of info on the project, was funded under the Horizon 2020 program. And the SWOFS. SWOFS is the acronym for Society with and for Society. And after the project will end, the platform will be sustained by the European Citizen Science Association. It's not going to remain abandoned, okay? It's very funny because I found some Italian project, and we don't have organization on citizen science in Italy. Okay, Citizen Science Italia is going to be established in a few months. We don't have organization caring for citizen science. There are some, there is one in Greece, for example, this organization. And just to give you another sample, there is also an organization in Czech. There are many registered, one in Spain, in France. I didn't find any organization registered for Italy. Among the useful tool, we already spoke about this useful tool. I'll tell you there is also a video which has been recorded by the Liber Working Group Citizen Science, and if you want to watch the video, I found it also very interesting. Okay, we already spoke about the guide and all other tools. So now some hints how to launch a citizen science project. This slide is similar to what Andrea said, and is much more addressed to researchers than to libraries, really. 10 steps to launch a citizen science project. But in some cases, so libraries can collaborate in a citizen science project, although it must be said that in order to be a citizen science project, it should involve researchers. So libraries can offer support, can preserve data, can manage data, can train volunteers, can disseminate, but in order to have a citizen science project, researchers must be involved. And so this is a program for researchers, really. I believe it is taken from OPAL, the OPAL project Andrea told us just at the beginning this morning. 8 steps to involve your library in citizen science. Of course, I think the most important thing in order to become active in citizen science is to develop the strategic partnership, because library by itself cannot do anything. Citizen science is a complex topic. Projects are complex, and so you have developed relationship and partnerships. Of course, I believe it is very useful to create also a working group inside the library, because also library director, of course, are involved in citizen science project, but it's also important to involve our staff. And if we create a formal group, is probably much more, the best thing to do is to create a formal group. And then to try to understand which projects are active in your area in a local level, because it's much important to become involved in a project, local project. Here now in Piedmont, we have this project which is Butterfly in the Air, I suppose was the name. And it's a project of our region. So public libraries, Turin public libraries are already involved in this project. Of course, contact the project manager, probably a researcher. Try to define which can be the role of a library in the project, involve the staff, upskill the staff, communication, for example, upskill the staff not only in relation to the concept of citizen science, but also in relation to soft skills, because citizen science means especially involving communities, and so we should train our staff in order to how to best communicate, how to best become involved, how to best involve our communities, and this means that people should develop soft skills. I really believe this is very important. And then, of course, if we succeed in being part or supporting a citizen science project, we should also communicate and promote our role as a library in these projects. Special collection. I told you that special collection are really very relevant for crowdsourcing projects. Of course, this is a role which is much more similar to our library, our professional role as librarians. Of course, we should select a collection of unpublished documents. This is very important. So probably we also preserve in our libraries archival documents, not only books, but also archival documents, archival manuscripts, notebooks. And these kind of documents are very important in order to launch or to take part in citizen science projects. Of course, we also should try to understand which is our audience, because we should have in mind what kind of communities we want to refer with a collection. So we should choose a collection also which has a meaning for our local communities, because otherwise it would be difficult to find volunteers, to gather people, to gather the interest of people around collection. Of course, schools are very important partners, and of course, we should try to find a technological infrastructure. As I told you, Zooniverse, you can develop your own project on Zooniverse, but there are also other infrastructures, and university also can offer infrastructures. And okay, this is the end of my presentation, just to give you some hints, some tools, some ideas. And now I would like also to ask if you have any questions or if we can wrap up what we have done today. Any comments you have, please go ahead.